Good afternoon, fellow speakers. My name is Sumaiya Sidat and I co-authored this paper with my colleague, Dr. Tony Machabahove. We are from the Department of Business Management at Nelson Mandela University in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. The title of our paper is Factors Influencing the Intentions of Financial Planners to Adopt Robo-Advisors. My presentation will be structured as follows. I will begin with an introduction and background to the study. I will then go on to provide you with the motivation and objectives of this paper. I will then give you an outline of the methodology which we adopted to conduct the study, followed by a review of the literature. I will then go on and discuss my results and outline the practical implications of the study, and lastly I will end off by outlining various limitations and recommendations based on this study. Financial technology is one of the most transformative trends of the century, and it is no secret that it is causing a transformation in the traditional methods in which financial services have been executed. Fintech also has the ability to make financial services more efficient, user-friendly, and also make financial services more accessible to people who previously did not have access to financial services. Within the financial planning sector, robo-advisors are the component of fintech which are expected to transform the traditional methods of financial planning. Robo-advisors are online platforms which can generate investment advice and financial solutions simply through the press of a button with limited human interaction. Robo-advisors are client and institutional facing. This means that individual investors can choose to use a robo-advisor independently, or financial planning practice can create their own robo-advisors or can choose to incorporate robo-advisors into their service offerings. And that is what we will be looking at specifically in this paper. We would like to know what influences the intentions of financial planners to actually adopt robo-advisors into their practices. So why did we do the study? The motivation for the study was based on our belief that research into the intentions of financial planners to adopt robo-advisors can yield results which may assist in easing the incorporation of robo-advisors into financial planning practices. So ultimately, from the findings of this paper, if financial planning businesses or firms want to incorporate robo-advisors into their offerings, they can adopt the robo-advisory adoption model, which was established in this paper to easily facilitate the incorporation of robo-advisors into their offerings. The main objectives of this paper are as follows. Firstly, we want to identify potential factors that can inhibit the intention of financial planners to adopt robo-advisors, and secondly, we want to identify the factors which will facilitate the adoption of robo-advisors into the financial planning process within South Africa. The methodology which we adopted in order to conduct the study was as follows. Firstly, we employed an interpretivist paradigm, which was most suitable for the study as it required us to understand the topic of robo-advice from the perspective of the individuals involved in the research area, which was financial planners. Secondly, we took a qualitative approach because we believed it was most appropriate to capture the perceptions of financial planners regarding their intentions to actually use robo-advisors. The research strategy which we adopted was semi-structured interviews, which were in-depth interviews, and they took place with 13 financial planners within the Eastern Cape, which is our local region. We conducted these interviews until the point of saturation. This means that we found that no more information was surfacing, so this is when we stopped conducting those interviews. Our sampling methods were criterion and snowball sampling. So for criterion sampling, we require that participants have to be actively involved within the industry and be providing investment advice for a minimum of 3 years. Secondly, we also require that the participants had a formal education such as a degree, diploma, or certification which enabled them to actually offer financial advice. With regards to data collection, as previously stated, we did semi-structured interviews. These interviews took place face-to-face in these financial planners' offices because they were done prior to COVID and prior to lockdown restrictions. Within the interviews, we had specific themes and topics which were addressed. Then with regards to data recording, our interviews were audio recorded and then these audio recordings were sent to a professional transcriber who transcribed them into text for us. The text and the interview transcriptions rather were then analyzed by means of inductive and deductive content analysis. Firstly, we will look at the main functions of a robo-advisor. So firstly, they can create portfolios, and when they do this, they commonly choose to invest in exchange-traded funds. Secondly, they offer portfolio rebalancing, which is a strategy which aims to realign the asset distribution within a portfolio by purchasing and selling assets. And lastly, we have tax loss harvesting, which is a strategy which aims at reducing tax liabilities and provides clients with an opportunity to rebalance and diversify their portfolios. Now we will look at the robo-advisory process. So over here, the first stage we have is client identification and screening. And in this stage, the robo-advisor will ask the client to set up an account and ask them to fill out an online questionnaire, which is usually in multiple choice format, entailing their financial needs, goals, risk appetite, as well as the investment timeline. In stage 2, the robo-advisor will then develop a plan by deciding on asset allocation strategies and select ideal securities, ultimately providing the user with a proposed investment solution. In stage 3, which is ongoing monitoring and evaluation of strategies, robo-advisors will then monitor the performance of the client's investments on an ongoing basis, and then when necessary, they will adjust or rebalance the portfolio accordingly. After this stage, the robo-advisor will then return to stage 1 and re-evaluate the client's information in order to identify updates or changes which have been made to the client's situation. The benefits of financial planners adopting robo-advisors include the following. Firstly, efficiency. So human financial planners may adopt robo-advisors to help them in efficiently serving their clients. Secondly, it can eliminate the downfalls of independently using a robo-advisor, which will be the downfall of robo-advisors to not be able to develop relationships and exhibit emotion. By financial planners incorporating robo-advisors into their offerings, then they can eliminate this lack of human interaction. This also means that whilst robo-advisors can deal with work behind the scenes, financial planners will then have less work and can focus on relationship building and establishing meaningful relationships with clients, which is ultimately central to the financial planning process. The robo-advisor can also assist in lowering costs in the areas of data collection, data organizing, analyzing portfolios, and delivering advice. And lastly, as a result of freeing more time and lowering costs, robo-advisors can assist financial planners by ultimately enabling them to access more clients. The last element which we look at in literature is the technology acceptance model. Now, TAM, or technology acceptance model, looks at factors that influence people to adopt new technology and aims to understand how individuals choose to accept technology into their everyday lives. This model is extremely relevant in the context of the study, as it can help understand what makes financial planners want to adopt robo-advisors into their practices. Now, according to this variation of the TAM model, in order to understand the acceptance of technology by humans, the perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use of technology must be considered. However, when it comes to the perceived ease of use, we cannot really investigate this, as robo-advisors are not widely used in South Africa as yet. However, an in-depth investigation was done regarding the perceived usefulness of the technology, and this was investigated according to the variables of intention to use, training, experience, system quality, compatibility with tasks, which were the deductive codes used in our content analysis. Further codes were then developed through information which emerged inductively in our interview transcripts. Now, with regards to our actual findings, firstly, we considered the general viewpoints of participants, and here we found that there are two main viewpoints on the topic of technology and robo-advice. Some financial planners are of the opinion that technology like the robo-advisor can definitely cause disruption in the industry, and in order to mitigate this disruption, individuals within the industry need to adjust to it by considering adopting these technologies. On the other hand, however, we have the perception that even if robo-advisors are adopted, minimal disruption can be caused because humans will always be central to the financial planning process. Next, we look at the intentions to use components, and here what we wanted to know is the willingness of financial planners to actually adopt robo-advisors. And our findings generally show that financial planners believe that it is possible for robo-advisors to be incorporated into the offerings of financial planning services. Ultimately, such tools can improve the offerings and save time with regard to the execution of specific tasks. There is also a general consensus that human financial planners can supplement robo-advisors by bringing the human element of empathy and emotion, because this is where robo-advisors fall short. We also found that the general reason inhibiting financial planners' intentions to use robo-advisors is a lack of humanness present when using a robo-advisor independently. But as discussed, this is why it would be ideal for the financial planner to incorporate it into their offerings and offer that human support to supplement the process. Next, we look at training and education, which is the internal and external sources of training and education provided to financial planners on the topic of robo-advisors. Here we found that there is a general lack of formal education and training on this topic, as most of financial planners learned about the topic from their own readings and research efforts. Very few, however, indicated that there was some brief discussions about the topic at industry presentations and roadshow presentations. However, there is no dedicated programs or sources of training on this topic and how it can be best incorporated into the service offerings of financial planners. With regards to experience, as robo-advisors are not widely used in South Africa, the participants of the study had not had any experience with robo-advisors. However, one participant claimed to have some sort of experience. However, when he elaborated on his experience, it came to light that what he was talking about was not in fact a robo-advisor, thus further highlighting the lack of training and education on this topic. Next, we looked at system quality, which refers to the perceived ability of robo-advisors to provide efficient solutions. Here it was found that ultimately robo-advisors are perceived to be accurate and efficient and have the ability to eliminate human biases. Robo-advisors offer fast, almost instant results and thus also exceed human capabilities in many areas. However, once again, an issue of concern is a lack of human component and inability of robo-advisors to exhibit emotions such as empathy. Lastly, we investigated the compatibility with tasks, which looked at the degree to which the technology can complete the required tasks of financial planning. And over here, once again, a huge area of concern which was highlighted was a lack of human element which is present when an individual chooses to use a robo-advisor independently, as a robo-advisor cannot mimic human behavior and cannot read body language or develop a deep relationship with a client. Based on these results and through the guidance from the technology acceptance model, we were thus able to develop the robo-advisory adoption model, which outlines the factors which influence financial planners' intentions to adopt technology like the robo-advisor. As outlined on the slide, ultimately the intentions to use, training and education, experience, system quality, and compatibility with tasks ultimately influences the final decision of financial planners to adopt such technology. Ultimately, it is believed that robo-advisors will transform the traditional methods of financial planning and impact the current financial planning process. However, if used correctly, these tools can facilitate an easier process for both financial planners and clients. By using the robo-advisory model, institutions and professional bodies within the financial planning sector can ease the facilitation process of adopting robo-advisors into their practices. Due to the time and financial restraints imposed on the study, we could only use a limited sample for data analysis. Secondly, a study of a similar nature, perhaps of a quantitative approach on a much larger scale, would prove a lot more beneficial. Increased research is definitely needed in this area, as South Africa differs vastly from other countries where these systems are more well established. Also, training and education initiatives of countries where robo-advisors are more widely used need to be investigated in order to apply the same techniques and methods in this country to facilitate the adoption of such technology. Thank you for listening and thank you for your time.